Hello, my name is Matthew Chan. I'm the author of the Turnkey Publisher series. And I'm here today to talk about a very uncomfortable subject, more specifically death. And I want to talk about people who die without ever writing a book. In the prior video, I talked about the importance of legacy and leaving your message behind, not simply just leaving will and money, but also giving direction, giving a message to future generations that will not get distorted along the way. Well, along similar lines, there are people, many people, who go to their death without having left any messages behind. At least nothing that has been planned or formalized. And I wanted to talk about a friend of mine who had recently died. And for the people who know me and watching this video, you might know who this person is. And for you, I hope you will understand that the purpose of this video is not to disparage that person or to be disrespectful to this person, but it is to give her death a little bit more meaning and to teach others what can happen if you don't focus in on getting things done in your life. And this person was a friend of mine who I met several years ago at a seminar, and we were a similar age and we had many similar friends and interests. Now, the difference between the two of us is that she was a lot more outgoing than I was. She traveled a lot more than I was, and she was well liked more than I was. So, I mean, on a personality front, she certainly had the edge, as far as I was concerned. Whereas me, I wasn't quite as likable, I wasn't quite as attractive. I mean, she was, people didn't necessarily want to party with me as much as they wanted to party with her. The point I'm trying to make was there were similarities within us that I saw. Because people who see other people that are similar to them can recognize it right off the spot. They may not say it outward, but they recognize it in themselves, both the good qualities and the not so good qualities. And my friend, who I'm referring to, she and I would speak, we would exchange emails, and we had a lot of the same interests, as far as our readings, some of our seminars, some of the things that we studied and so forth. So I knew we had a lot of common interests. And one of those common interests had to do with publishing and writing. Now, she did a lot more writing in many respects than I did. She wrote a lot of articles for newsletters and so forth, whereas I wrote in a different capacity. I would participate in discussion forums, or I would package up my writings into like books and audio programs and so forth. So we took slightly different paths. Now ultimately, she died at the age of 41. And it was actually very sad, and many people thought that she just died way too young. I also agreed. But one of the things that I knew that I feel that a lot of people didn't know was I knew she wanted to make a difference in this world. I knew she wanted to reach out further and wider than she did. And one of those things was writing a book. And yet, despite all of our private conversations and my encouragement to have her write the book, to get it started, she ultimately never did it. And to this day, I feel that it is one of her regrets. I do not know for sure, but the thing about it is that we had a lot of similarities, and because of all the writing she did, I know in my heart of hearts that she had a book within inside her, but for whatever reason, she never got around to doing it. And in my opinion, she always had something else to do, but more importantly, I think there were some inner struggles within her that prevented her from writing the book. I think they are issues that are actually very common in all of us. One of those issues is, what is it that we can talk about? What is it that we can teach the world? What is it that we have to offer that other people don't? And in order to publish, these are questions you have to answer for yourself, because ultimately you will have to step up and to put those words into an organized package form. Either you can get to that point or you can't. And unfortunately for her, she ran out of time because cancer had claimed her, and her life was just simply cut short, basically cut in half, way too soon. So I hope you will seriously think about your own situation. Now, I know there are some people in this world, they're never going to write a book, or they're never going to want to leave a legacy. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? Although, despite the fact that I think everyone has something to offer, and everyone has something to say of value. But ultimately, if you're viewing this video, I know for a fact you are not one of those people. If you are viewing this video, I know for a fact you have a message that you want to get out to people. And I know you want to write a book. Okay? The question is, are you going to do it before you die? And when I say die, in this case of my friend, she was cut short at the age of 41. Alright? And unfortunately, it happens in this world every day. People's lives are getting cut short. It is because of that realization that I am so passionate about what I do and why I try to move so fast. Another tip that I recommend is that, relating to this whole death issue in publishing, is go watch the movie The Bucket List. It's actually a pretty funny movie. Parts of it is sad, but it's a wonderful movie. And The Bucket List, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a list of all the things you want to do before you kick the bucket. And so if writing a book or teaching the world is something that's calling to you, step it up. Let's try to make things happen. Now, as I end this video, there are two books that I want to bring attention to. Number one is The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. He was a professor that was well liked and became quite popular because of his last lecture. Apparently it was very passionate, and it was very inspiring, and it carried a lifelong message. And ultimately, he was able to leave a wonderful legacy through his videos, which you can still find on YouTube, as well as his book, and I highly recommend it. The other recommendation I make is Ted Kennedy, more specifically Ted Kennedy's upcoming book, True Compass. Whether or not you liked Ted Kennedy or agreed with him or not, the point is, he did come from a wealthy family that was well known, and he was the youngest of all the children in his family who had to find his way. And one of the things that came out after his death is that he wanted to write a memoir. He wanted to talk about all the things that he couldn't talk about before his death, and he wanted to make a lasting impact in setting the record straight on what his life was all about. And I am quite happy to hear that he did in fact finish his memoir before his death. Unfortunately, from what I've heard from the news programs, is that he may not have gotten a copy of the book prior to his death. From what I've heard, that the book arrived on the day of his death, so which is actually quite sad. I mean, one hopes that he actually got to see that this book did come into existence before he died. But in any case, his words are out there. And for me personally, I think it's actually quite moving and quite inspiring that he made the effort to talk about all the things that was controversial in his life and tried to set the record straight and so forth. But that's the issue with publishing before you die. I hope this video has not depressed you, because that's not the intention. The whole point of this video is to drive the message through that time is a one commodity that I think is relatively scarce, that it can slip by us and if you're not careful, it can be squandered away. Anyhow, thank you for taking the time to this video. Do some thinking about what I'm saying, and I'll see you in my next video.